It's got style, it's got coolness, and it's got wow factor. But what it doesn't have is reliability. In this episode of 4x4 Garage, we're gonna be yanking the antiquated drivetrain out of my '78 Cherokee Chief and replacing it with some modern power. I bought this Jeep in 2011. It was a screaming deal on Craigslist. I had to race up there as quick as I could in the shadow of Dodger Stadium with my trailer to be the first in line to buy it. And I was. I threw a battery in it, a little juice down the carburetor, and boom, she fired right to life. And immediately, 3 seconds later, there's a big puff of acrid smoke coming from underneath the hood and the dash, and yeah, the wiring had all fried instantly. Right there, it was a runner for about 3 seconds, and that was the start of my love-hate relationship with this thing. It's a very dysfunctional, abusive relationship where this Jeep is most definitely in charge, and I'm just along for the ride, feeding it breadcrumbs, trying to get it to be nice to me. The interesting thing about this vehicle, although I love it, I love the styling, I love the feel of it, I love how people seem to get happy when they see it. Every time I stop to put fuel in it, which is frequently, someone comes up and says, "Oh, my uncle had one of those," or "My grandfather had one of those," and everyone seems to have an emotional attachment to this. But all that aside, and if I'm not being emotional about it, this is the worst vehicle I've ever owned, quality control-wise. This Jeep has 109,000 miles on it. I've had to replace every system in this vehicle. I mean everything. Fuel system, all new. Electrical system, all new. The engine, when I bought it, I had receipts from the previous owners. They had the bottom end of the engine rebuilt with new bearings. Then in a separate invoice from a year later, they had to have the rings redone. One cylinder head got a valve job. Then a year later, the other cylinder head got a head gasket. I mean, this thing is just a litany of one major repair after the other. Despite what a horrible, horrible quality vehicle it is in terms of construction, I love it. My wife loves it, and my family loves it. So the goal with this thing is to really make it reliable enough that we can all enjoy it. And most importantly, that I can throw the keys to my wife, and she can drive it whenever she wants, and I don't have to worry about her breaking down out in the middle of nowhere. One of the nice things about being here in SoCal is you've got no end of shops that know what they're doing. I just happen to be friends with this guy named Johnny Wood. He was one of our invited readers who came along on Ultimate Adventure. He just so happens to know an awful lot about LS swaps. He's done a bunch of them. He owns a shop in the town next to mine, and he offered generously to clear a bay for us so we could do the conversion at his shop, Woods Off-Road. Johnny and I are just kind of poking along here, getting all the stuff that's attached to the engine off. And we're gonna proceed with the disassembly, get this engine transmission out of here. And while we're doing this, found out there's a couple things on my 5.3 that I brought down here that aren't gonna play nice with the Holley Terminator X we're gonna use to power this system. Corey Holmes from Holmes Fabrication over in Vista agreed to come in and tear down our 5.3 liter and get it ready to be reliable and a little more powerful. So while we continue over here, Corey's gonna come in and get to work on the engine so we're not wasting time.
Today, we are gonna take this LC9 5.3 liter 07 and up truck motor. We're going to delete the DOD and active fuel management as well as the variable valve timing. See all the oil porting here. And this is what controls shutting down the 4 cylinders. You have your solenoids down here. When these receive pressure, what happens is it shuts down 4 cylinders. As you can see, 4 cylinders worth of shutdown.
What we're gonna do here is we're gonna measure a baseline from the output of the transfer case, the yoke to yoke. What Christian's trying to do is he's trying to reuse the drive shafts. Well, if we remove everything before we measure it, we won't know where to put it back at. Christian's told me that the 400 and the 4L65E relatively the same in length. So what we're gonna try to do is reuse the transmission mount and place the motor that way, but if it doesn't work out, we can always make something.
Now in here we'll see the cam phaser, which is what controls camshaft timing. And it'll retard camshaft timing to make more power at the top end and advance it to make more power at the bottom end. There we go. In here is your cam phaser. This is your reluctor wheel that tells the computer where the camshaft is at. And it will change this gear in relation to the camshaft as it's going when you're running this. But we aren't gonna run this. We're gonna take this out of here for simplification.
There's like $8 billion in fuel in this tank. Feels a little full back here, so let's try to keep it level.
Here is the displacement on-demand lifter we're talking about. It ports oil and it allows it to collapse this lifter where this spring is, as opposed to your standard lifter, which is sitting right next to it. And that allows this follower to follow the camshaft lobe. And as it goes up and down, it's not actuated, which then in turn shuts down cylinders 1, 7, 4, and 6 as you're driving down the road, which is better for fuel economy, but in the long run and performance, this won't cut it for what we're doing. We're gonna move over to an LS7 style lifter, which we have new in a box over here.
Straight back, one turn. There we go. Came eventually.
There we go. And now we've removed the camshaft, and we will put in our 6-liter camshaft.
Keep moving. I can get under there and bench press the 400 off the cross member if I have to.
Oh, real quick, let's drain the transmission.
Transmission, yes. Your shop floor will thank you for it.
Okay, it's on the tail shaft. Did you cut that with a grinder?
Me? Yeah. I can't remember what I did or didn't do. How we... All right, a little more.
Gotta come up.
That's it?
I gotta come up.
Can we go down on the lift?
What we can do is go caddy.
Right on.
Coming out.
It's like when Steve Austin
Use your muscles.
did the $6 Million Man with Lindsay Wagner.
On the back of this specific LS motor, the intake manifold has a plug in the back. Well, we're gonna be using a vacuum booster. In order for that to work, we have to make an adapter, or you can buy one. We just happen to have a lathe here, so I'm just gonna make this and have a little fitting out here so we can attach the hose to the vacuum booster.
We're gonna install this piece that Johnny made over there on the lathe, and we're gonna put it in, and this allows us to go to the brake booster as a 3/8 hose. We'll tighten it up once we get in the car.
There are little nubs on the back here on an FSJ that you just have to cut off. I just use a straight razor. And now the Dakota digital gauge pack. I'm gonna remove the protective plastic. Careful not to scratch it. And I'm just gonna stick it right in here. These kind of tweak and warp over time. They did not use the best materials to create these gauge bezels, so I'm being really careful not to stretch it too much, but plunk, there we go.
I went ahead and designed a mount that's going to fit inside the glove box for the Holley ECU, the Dakota digital controller, and then also we're going to Velcro the handheld display for the Holley. We're going to Velcro all that inside on this mount. It lines up with the holes. So there's existing holes right here that we'll be able to run self-tappers in. ECM is going to mount on top of this. Dakota digital box, handheld.
What we're doing here is we've identified everything from the factory plug to the dash. And we're gonna take everything we need for the Dakota digital, brake light, high beam light, turn signals and such. And we're gonna create These are Deutsch connectors. You can use weather pack or anything you're comfortable with, or butt connect them, extend them. I like this so we can disconnect the Dakota Digital without undoing all of the little screws in the board. They take a tiny little pin like this, and it goes into a tool, and then you put the wire in it, and it creates a 4-pin pinch. Once I'm done with all 6 of these, I will take the actual lock mechanism and I will push it in there.
Normally this 4L65E would have a round 6-bolt pattern to go to like an MP 231, 242 New Venture transfer case. I want to keep the quadra-track in this just for personal reasons, and so I had advanced adapters send the adapter to Gearstar, so when Gearstar built the transmission, they were able to incorporate the adapter right on it. And so that's the factory adapter on the advanced adapter on the Gearstar 4L65. When we get this in the vehicle, we'll put the spud shaft in, put the bearing on, and then we can put the quadra-track T-case behind it.
Now that we've got our mating connectors inside the vehicle, I'm gonna take and I'm gonna wire these connectors to this box. When you're building a Dakota Digital, it's better, in my opinion, to tin the end of your wires with solder, so when you crimp down these little screws, they get a better grab on it. So we can plug this in and out for everything that is attached to the original dash. It's easier to build it here than it is on your back, on the ground underneath the dash.
We have the engine and transmission ready to get mocked in here. We've got flop shop engine mounts for an FSJ to LS conversion that utilize the factory frame brackets here. So we're gonna put these in here and see where we can position it. Hopefully everything clears and we've got room between the power booster and the valve cover and all that stuff. I've never used these before. I'm real excited. If they work, it'll be awesome. Make life a lot easier than cutting these out and fabricating new mounts on the frame. This is a factory replacement rubber transmission mount that I put on this car, I don't know how many years ago, to replace one that had fallen apart, and this one's already in the process of disintegrating. They don't like being oil soaked, and this vehicle used to drip transmission and engine oil all over it. Got a new aftermarket transmission mount. It's not identical, but the bolt holes are all the same, so we're gonna use this one in place of this. Because this is urethane, we shouldn't have that same disintegration issue.
Finally, we're gonna put our clip in this connector to retain all those release pins so we don't lose anything. And now we've completed our harness. We'll get it mounted to our bracket and install it in the car.
Okay,
Coming forward.
Lifting. Okay, no drama. Yeah, you can come back and down. Okay, so that's in there. That is all kinds of, oh, Johnny did it. Johnny did it.
Johnny, the man.
In.
Yes. Okay.
Well, that's that one.
Man, okay. Well, that pretty much wraps it up for this episode. We've got the Vortec engine bolted in with the flop shop brackets. It took a little wiggling and jiggling, but the fit is phenomenally good. The placement inside the engine bay is perfect with plenty of clearance around the power brake booster and the HVAC system here. Next time we're gonna come back, we're gonna get it up in the air, finish bolting on the transfer case side of things, plummet for fuel, finish the electrical, and hopefully fire it up.